Hello everybody, welcome to part 8 of the 1929 Atwater Kent 55C. Today we're going to be cleaning the top side of the chassis. As you can see, it's pretty grungy. I did a quick little wipe down here because this is where I'll be putting my condenser can back, and I do want to kind of get this on and soldered in before I take anything else loose underneath. It's easier for me to just keep track of everything. As we talked before, it's going to sit here just like this. I got to drill a hole for that hole I showed you right here. I'll put a star washer down there. I haven't yet decided if I'm going to drill a hole here. It kind of depends on how easily this stainless steel, which is what this appears to be, drills, because most people know stainless doesn't drill very easily. So if the first hole drills okay, I'll probably go ahead and do the second hole. Otherwise, I'll use the hole there with the star washer and a nice tight nut to get my grounding between this and the chassis. And if I can, I'll put one there. If not, I'll put some hot glue or something there. I probably will manage to get it though. Maybe I'll do one on each corner. I don't know. I have to see. I have to see what's underneath there in this spot. I know that I'm clear on this side over here because I looked at that before when I decided which side I was going to put the hole. But I'm going to go ahead and drill that out off camera, and we'll get that on there, and I'll come back. Alright folks, I was just going to show you, I went ahead, I did drill 2 holes, and what I'm doing, you can see this, I've got a internal star washer there that it's going to go on the top, and then I've got an external star washer that's going to go in the middle like that, and I've got 2 of these that we're going to fix up the exact same way. And that should make sure that we keep good ground contact between everything. So let me get this on here. Hopefully I can do this. And see if we can set that down in there without losing everything. Well, obviously not. Let's see if I can keep them getting in your way so much. So set the washers right over the holes. And then we'll try this again. Probably should be doing this with a magnet. Okay, let's start with this again. I'm off camera and I apologize for that. So I'll just put my screws that way. And let's see if I can line this up. There's that one. There's that one. Alright, and then on the bottom I got another star washer and the nuts. So each one will have a star washer and a nut. So basically we have the screw, a star washer, the plate, a star washer, the chassis, a star washer, and a nut. Probably overkill, I know, but that's kind of the way I do things. I overkill everything. My wife says I try and get too carried away with stuff. Anyway, I wanted to show you that. I'm going to screw this down. Okay, so I got it screwed down there. Everything's nice and snug in the way I did it. I may have it slightly cocked, but as long as our can still goes on, it won't matter. Let me see if my holes line up for my can. And they do. So right there, everything is going to be fine in there. So perfect, perfect. And that be that. All I got to do is flip it over and solder the wires back on. Okay guys, I'm getting ready to do some cleaning on this chassis here. Maybe I got one about a little bit backwards, doing the other stuff first, but Sometimes I just change things up a little bit just so that I can get a better idea of what I got. A lot of times I've cleaned the chassis first, only to find out that the doggone something serious is wrong. But so this time I decided to go ahead and check out a lot of the things first, such as the transformers, and get rid of condensers and stuff like that. I still have another transformer, I think it's the audio transformer, that's in this can, and you can see the outline of it. It sits like this. There's a capacitor in here called a quality capacitor, and it sits right here on this side in this section. And I know this because I've watched a couple other videos where they have gone in and attempted to get this quality capacitor snipped out so they can put a new capacitor underneath the chassis, and in the process they typically screw up the coil, the transformer wires, because that capacitor is attached, and if you try to pull it, it'll rip the wire right out of the coil. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to have to remove the can to do it. I'll probably take it out to my garage, obviously it's tar, with a heat gun and my little butane torch, and hopefully melt enough of this tar out of here to get to that quality cap without disturbing the coil. I'm going to check the coil first, but before I do that, I decide I'm going to go ahead and start cleaning on this thing, and I'll probably just speed through this for you guys. I'll show you a little bit what I'm going to be doing right up front, and then I'll probably speed through it. So I'm just using my Method antibacterial all-purpose cleaner. Seems to work really nice. I'm using a brass wire brush, and we're just going to kind of scrub this off and see what we get. It looked like it turned out pretty good over here by the condenser can, and that's what I'm hoping the rest of it's going to do as well. So we'll find out here in a little bit. So we can just work away at this. I probably won't do too much talking because I'm sure I'm going to fast forward through this anyway. So once I get this chassis somewhat clean, I'm going to take the front tuning condensers off so I can get that all cleaned up as well. But for now, I'm just kind of doing a quick go over here, and we'll see what we get. Took the screws out, and I've got the front off. In the first video I mentioned those numbers that were on there, the 57, 103, and 122. That's what those are. Anyway, what we got, get that all cleaned up. So that's what we got here. Let me get this cleaned up. And then we'll take this volume switch and see what we can do with that. Okay, folks, I just thought I would give you guys a final look at the cleaning, how it turned out. I'm pretty pleased with it. Turned out pretty doggone good. It cleaned up really nice, and I'm real happy with it, actually. I'll take the camera out of the tripod so you can see this a little closer. Get my fingers out of the way. But as you can see, it turned out pretty darn good. I mean, it's not perfect, but then it's 90 years old. So I don't think I'll be perfect in 90 years either. But considering what it was, I'm very, very pleased with it. Turned out really good. So I even got a lot of the discoloration off of this particular can here, so I think it's good. Looks good. Again, I wanted to go ahead and show you guys that. And the volume switch is broken, the one that was on here, internal as well as externally. So I'll show you that here in a minute. I think what I'm going to do, I have the second 55C. I'll probably just go ahead and take it off of it. I don't know internally how it is. I know externally it's not broken. So I think I'm going to show you the one that was on here though. Volume control. Got it off of there. It's actually like a can. It's a can lid. Bent it a little bit, but I'll bend it back when I put it back on there. But this is what I found. It's a wire wound, right? And this contact, I'm assuming is what it is. It's laying inside there like that. Now each one of these goes on here to hold that in there. Get you in camera. Like that. The screw from the wire goes through from the outside, and then there's a nut and a lock washer. So there was two of those. So this arm appears to ride on the top of the wires. And I am thinking that this contact was originally attached to this one down here. So I need to clean this up and see if I can get that somehow reattached back on there. I gotta figure this out. It almost feels like fiber. So the way this thing worked is that might have been isolated from that. I don't know. I'll have to do a little research on this one. Try and figure this one out. But I wanted to at least show you guys what's inside there. I'll have to do a little research on that one. Also looks like this was originally attached to the front, but had broken off. Those pieces are still on the front, as far as the front of the metal portion where the tuning condensers are. I thought that they were like felt things, but they're not. I can see now that they're broke off of here, so we'll have to figure this one out, because I'm sure this is like unobtainium. So anyway, we'll get her figured out. Oh, I was also show you this. Let me take you down off of this. All right. Got my fat fingers in your way. All right. As far as the indicator light bezel, I unsoldered that one. I soldered it back on. Took this one off. The reason that was so hot, I think, is because they didn't get a solder joint. They crimped the wire in there, and I think that crimp had gotten super hot. So I uncrimped it, pulled a little bit more wire loom off of it, cleaned it up, soldered it in there good, heat shrinked with that one, and then put this one over that. So that should be good to go now. Alright, I'm going to see what I can do with this volume control. Okay, so here's what I figured out so far. I went online, I couldn't see anything on this thing. So I just physically started looking at it, started trying to figure out what made sense and what didn't make sense. So I went ahead and I took this piece out, okay? And when I did that, I took the shaft out, I cleaned that all up, so now it fits really nice, and I'll put some lubrication on, okay? But this piece was what was throwing me for a loop. Excuse my dirty fingers. But this piece was what was throwing me for a loop. The opposite side was all smashed. If you can see this or not. If that camera will focus or not. But it's wood. Alright? Wood. It's like a little dowel. Again, I don't know if you can see that. But it's like a little dowel. So what I did was I had a little dowel, not the right diameter, a little bit too big, so I put it in my drill and I spun it until it was the right diameter. That piece that I just showed you, the little bitty piece, was actually in a recess. There's like a little bowl in there. And that piece, which is also wood. Okay? Not sure how well you can see this. So I went ahead, took the smashed piece out, put this in my drill, spun it on some sandpaper till it just fit in there, and then I super glued this piece, the bigger piece, with super glue, and I stuck my dowel in there while I still had it in my drill. Then, after it set, about a minute, I spun the whole thing in my drill and held my razor blade against it to part it, and I cut it off. Okay, so that's what I got. Now, what I could see on this piece right here, if you can see that or not, there was a little corrosion on that. Well, that matches, guess what, this bottom piece, which I've since cleaned up. That one and this one. But what I'm thinking is that piece went on there like that and mashed down on this piece, which if you look actually has a track where the little dowel would have been riding. Now this is all assumption. I haven't taken the other one out of the other 55C yet, but I decided I was going to go ahead and try and fix this thing. So since that's wood and this was not, it looked like it had some sort of a tack or something on there. So I'm thinking I'm going to epoxy that on there and maybe put some sort of like a little teeny weeny itsy bitsy pin in there that doesn't go through very far, just to kind of hold it all together. And then I'll put it back together again and see what we get. I don't know. I try and fix things as much as possible, because this other side here, I've got these pieces and I can epoxy those back on there. But I think I'm going to give this a shot. So I just wanted to show you that and let you know what I'm doing here. Okay, I'm not sure how this is going to work, but here's what I'm trying to do. I just put my magnifier under my camera. So here's that piece we were just talking about before. What I did was I took a little tiny drill bit. I drilled a little tiny hole inside of it. I didn't go all the way through the thickness of the main body. I found this little tiny screw. The idea is going to be I'm going to cut this screw off. Here's the piece. I'm going to put that screw in there like that. I'm going to cut this screw off till there's only about a 1/16 of an inch, a millimeter or two, probably just about that first thread. And then I'm going to epoxy this screw and this to this. And I think between the epoxy and the screw, it'll hold it on there. So that's my plan. Here's the screw. Now let's see if I can get this all put together. Okay. Got it on there. My little screw in there. Got my end on there. I think that's the way it goes. Of course, I'm not positive that that's the way it goes, but I think that's the way it goes. So I'm going to put it back together again like this and see how it tests out. Maybe I get lucky and I fixed it. Okay, here's what we got. You can see how I can see this. If I can get the angle where you can see this. There's an air gap. Let's see if I can get this angle. There's an air gap in there. I left a little bit of an air gap between this top spring plate and the actual spring plate that rides against the top of the coil. So I guess I'll put that together and see what we get. So here's the 3 tuning condensers and a couple of the brackets that go beside them to separate them in the ultrasonic cleaner. I've got the fins open right now to get maximum coverage on everything. Have the center gear there. I have the 2 beryllium strips in there and the 2 condenser wheels. So I'm going to put some cleaning vinegar in there and some very hot water, and we'll turn it on for about 30 minutes and see what how these turn out. Hey folks, so I decided to give you a quick update on this volume pot. It's a 6,000 ohm pot, and I think I got it fixed the way I showed you the other day. I waited a couple days here for the deoxit to all dry out and everything in there, and I'll show you here. I'm going to rotate this around as you watch my meter there. So you can see that meter. And there it is at 6,000. It's pretty smooth actually. I'm pretty happy with that. Actually very smooth. All the way down. Right there between 0 and 1,000, it's a little, takes a little bit of turn to get there. But then after that, it's pretty smooth. So I think it was a success. We're going to go with that. Okay, so I got the front panel all torn apart and cleaned up. As you can see here, we did the tuning condensers and the ultrasonic cleaner, and they all turned out pretty nice. I've checked them to make sure that they're not shorted at all. They're in very good shape. So anyway, it's all cleaned up. Got the belts all cleaned up. Getting ready to put it all back together again. I got the volume control epoxied back together again there. And that's the cover for that. And I will get ready to put that back together again. Okay, folks, I've got the front all back together again. It turned out pretty nice. I'm very happy with it. I want to show it to you. The reason I'm not going to be putting it on the chassis for a while because I want to finish the chassis up. I've still got to paint the cans, which, if anybody has a good suggestion as to what color that is, a brown. It's a deep brown. You see the inside, or you see the inside of the, I don't know how well that's going to come across when the light hits it, if you can see that. Hopefully I can, I don't know if you guys can see that or not. But it's a dark brown, very dark brown. And I want to paint the transformer cans while it's still on the chassis, which means I'll have to mask the chassis all up in order to do that. And I don't want this front panel on there when I do that. So I won't be putting that on for a while, and I won't be painting those cans on that chassis until I get the interstage and output transformers checked out and that can removed and the quality capacitor cut out of it, hopefully. I've got to check those out. My next video will be on checking out the audio and interstage transformers, and then whether they're good or not, I'm going to try and get that. Well, if they're no good, I've got to get them out of the can so I can get a couple of new transformers to put in there. If they are good, the next step is going to be to get that quality capacitor removed by taking it out to my garage and using my torch or my heat gun and trying to melt out enough tar just to get that quality capacitor free enough that I can cut it out with it without hopefully destroying the output transformer wiring. So that's what the next video is going to be. But I did want to show you this. I did get it done. I got the beryllium belts cleaned up. I got everything cleaned up basically. And it turned out pretty good. I'm really happy with it. The only thing I got left to do on this is I do want to put some heat shrink on these wires. I've got to make a new grid cap for that one. This one's fine. I guess got to figure out, I guess I'm going to have to unsolder something. Slip the heat shrink over it. Shrink it and let it be. I have to figure out how I'm going to do those. I haven't decided how I'm going to do those. There's the volume control can, turned out really nice. So it works really smooth now. Super smooth. I got the tuning condensers all lubricated after I got them all cleaned up. Everything works real nice. This is that same dial that was on there. I just cleaned it up. It's yellowed. I think when they're original they're white, but it's in such good condition. All the numbers and everything's great. I actually used, you don't usually use water because water will take that stuff off on most of the radios, especially Philcos. but this must not be water soluble because I tried just a little bit down here on an edge just to see what it was going to do, and it didn't touch it, so I went ahead and cleaned the rest of it up. I didn't put any soap in it, it was just water. I don't think that yellowing will come out. I'm sure that's just from age. It's 90 years old, right? So that's what it is. It like I said, it works really well. I'll show you from this side. Make sure you're still on camera. Yeah, it turned out really well. I'm very happy with it, and I think it's going to be good. And I get those wires done. I did polish the little knurlies up here, as well as the brass on the front. It's all polished. So it turned out really well. And I have a couple of photos that you saw previous to this particular portion of the video that showed the parts separate and such, but I did want to make this and show you how well it works. The beryllium belt turned out nice. I was happy with that. So I did want to ask you guys something, and I'm hoping one of my viewers may be able to answer me. So as you can see here, I don't know if you can or not, we're going to get it closer hopefully so you can see here. There's little teeny teeth on this. Well, they're pretty nubby. They're not very sharp. I think they're more worn in the area where the radio was played the most. Get you centered here. And so this is the knob that I took off of it. I haven't cleaned it up or anything yet. But here, it looks like teeth. There's nothing much there. It looks like a shadow of teeth. And when I clean it up, I can see better. But this is the knob off the other radio. This one appears to have a rubber grommet type on it. And I don't know if any of my viewers know what the radio was supposed to have had when it was new, but I kind of like the idea of the rubber grommet thing. I mean, obviously I would get a different rubber grommet than this, and depending upon how this cleans up, I think this will be the one that was original to this one. Is this one? I'll go ahead and use this knob, but I think I'm going to probably go the rubber grommet way. I don't know if that's the way it was supposed to be. I haven't attempted to put the knob on yet. All I know is that when I took it apart, the knob didn't really spin anything. Well, maybe that's why, because there's no rubber grommet on it. This one spun the knob a little bit, but it slipped, which I can understand why. You can see it's pretty worn out, but I think it's supposed to be a rubber grommet on there. So if any of my viewers know, or know somebody that knows, drop me an update so I can get that knob finished up and on there and get that so that it fully functions. So I think that'll about conclude this video on the chassis cleanup / tuning condenser cleanup / volume control. As you can see, in those other photos, and I think the other video I showed you, I had epoxied the broken pieces back on that volume control, and that worked out really well. So I think it's good to go. So from Greg at Gregg Vintage Workshop, I thank you guys so much for watching my boring videos, tuning in, and stay tuned for the next video, which will be again the interstage and output transformer checkout, removal, melting the tar out, getting that quality capacitor out, and we'll go from there. And we'll start after that. We'll be verifying resistors and such in the chassis, and then after that I'll start putting this thing back together again. So again, thanks for watching. Have a great day.